Good afternoon and welcome to the Parks, Recreation and Community Services Commission meeting for Monday, August 20th. May I have the roll call, please?
Sure. Commissioner Zasatrian?
Present.
Commissioner Kalfayan, absent. Wolfson?
Present.
Wu?
Present.
President Michaels?
Present.
Item A, posting of the agenda. The agenda for the August 20th, 2018 regular meeting was posted on the bulletin board outside City Hall on or before Friday, August 17, 2018. Item 2, upcoming council agenda items.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Michaels, members of the Commission. We have a few items coming up on August 28th. First is a joint meeting with the Housing Authority and City Council for the 2018 funding application for NOFA, our Homeless Continuum of Care Program, and also note and file the Homeless Point in Time Count 2000 that was held in January of 2018. Our second report is also a joint report with the Public Works Department, Design and Engineering Services for Pacific Park Playground and Pool Shade Structure Project. And our third report is once again a joint report with the Public Works Department, Shoal Canyon Ballfield Restroom and Concession Renovation Project. We would like to reject all bids and renegotiate with the contractors that submitted bids.
Next item.
Item 3A, introduction and presentations. At A, recognition of cruise night sponsors.
Good afternoon, President Michaels, members of the Commission. I'm Gabrielle Golia, Senior Community Services Supervisor with the Department. The Community Services and Parks Department would like to thank everybody who attended our 25th annual Cruise Night event this year. It was held on Saturday, July 21st from 5:30 to 10:30 p.m. We had Mr. Rock and Roll host our event again this year. Brian Byrne is his name. And our performers included Jumpin' Jack Flash, Motown Magic, and Who's Next, the Who Experience. The show wrapped up again this year with our fireworks spectacular. We had a couple extra goodies this year as part of the 25th annual event. We had a second stage where we had a DJ who provided some music and also had some games and activities for families. They had some hula hoop contests and some dancing contests. And we had a celebrity guest judge this year, Mr. Kent McCord from Adam 12. And everybody was really thrilled to see him. We had between 50 and 55,000 attendees come this year. It was an incredibly popular event. And we had 331 cars registered this year, which is up from last year when we only had 309. Not only, but we had 309. And this year we had 331. Sponsorships are such a huge part of this event. We rely on our sponsors to help us bring in enough money to have the event annually. We generated $37,500 in sponsorships this year, and our car registrations brought in an additional $11,700. Our goal this year was $50,000, and we generated $49,270. So we were very, very close to reaching our total goal, and without the generous sponsors, we just couldn't have done it. Today we wanted to recognize the sponsors who contributed $1,000 or more to the event this year. We did invite any sponsor who contributed that much. We have 2 here today with us who are able to make it. So I'd like to invite President Michaels down to present certificates to LA Injury Group, which is, we have Rafi here, and to Glendale Water and Power, we have Mike DeGhetto here to receive these certificates.
On behalf of the Commission, allow me to express our thanks and gratitude for your sponsorship. So let me present the certificates. Thank you both very much. Thank you. The next item, please.
Item 3B, presentation by the Glendale YWCA regarding their domestic violence program.
afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Sagun, and I am the Domestic Violence Services Manager at the YWCA. And I'm here to provide you with some information on the services that we provide. The YWCA Domestic Violence Program offers case management services, individual therapy, legal services, 45-day emergency shelter. We have a housing homeless prevention program, childcare for all the recipients that are there receiving services, and a 24-hour crisis hotline. Our DV program uses a trauma-informed approach. We conduct domestic violence support groups, such as parenting, domestic violence education, support group, emotions management, and so forth. We offer these groups in 12-week cycles, and the classes vary between an hour and a half every day. Our Sunrise Village Emergency Shelter, we normally house anywhere between 10 to 13 participants there, women and children. Our shelter for the most part is full every day, all day long. Unfortunately, it's just an ongoing cycle, and so it's full at all times. We offer bilingual services. There's 3 threshold languages that we offer our services in and our groups. It's Spanish, Armenian, and English. If we need to offer services to someone who isn't available or isn't able to speak those languages, we do have a service that we call Language Line, and they do interpreting services for us so that there's very clear communication between us and the participants. Childcare is offered for every single one of the participants that are in our program, so that while they're receiving any type of case management, legal service, or individual therapy, their children can be in a safe place and they don't have to worry about where they're going to leave them. Our housing program is a fairly new program that we have, but we are very proud of the program because we are able to offer assistance with transitional housing after they exit our emergency shelter. We also offer permanent housing, assistance with being able to secure permanent housing, utility shut-off assistance to help them not lose their place to live, and we offer moving assistance and rental application fees, so that they can pretty much try to move forward out of our emergency shelter a lot easier than not if it were someone who didn't have those services. Our crisis line is a 24-hour line, and last year we serviced about 1,800 crisis calls, and we were able to house 29 women and 24 children at our Sunrise Village Emergency Shelter last year. There is a difference. I think somebody wanted clarification on a client who is in a current domestic violence situation and a client who has been in a previous domestic violence situation. So we service both, whether it's someone who lived or experienced that trauma in the past and isn't able to really move forward because it's something that continuously is haunting them, and their things are triggering them in their lives. So we will definitely provide services to them, and as well as anyone in immediate danger trying to flee. Our number one thing that we do is always safety plan with them, make sure that they know what their options are. Our attorney will step in and help them identify what their rights are so that they can move out of their domestic violence situation. If a person does not want to come into our 45-day emergency shelter, again, our priority is always safety planning and helping them come up with a plan as to where they can go, a family member's house, a friend's house, really trying to secure something safe for them. And so we will definitely advocate with Magda and the other case managers to ensure that everybody who walks in receives some kind of service or walks out with at least a resource if we're not able to help them. And that's pretty much it. If anyone has any questions, please feel free. We did pass out some pamphlets so that you can have some information on the services that we do provide. And there's a business card that we give. We try to give out to everyone as much as possible because it's easier to just slip somebody a card that small if they do need any type of domestic violence services. And our hotline number is listed on there. Okay.
Hey. Well, first and foremost, thank you for all your work and efforts in this area. I think I was the one that had raised the question, and it specifically came during a time when we were getting a presentation with respect to city services that are being provided. I believe I mentioned this during that particular meeting, but I want to say 2007, 2008, during that time, Council Member Paula Devine was actually the chair of the Women's Commission, and we had created a coalition group that included the Armenian National Committee of America's Glendale Chapter, the Armenian Relief Society, I believe it was Neighborhood Legal Services at the time, along with bringing Ywca to the table to make sure that we're properly coordinating the crisis management. And I think that group for a long while met to figure out how we implement like the programs that you now have for the language barriers or individuals with language barriers. I think in most recent months, I've kind of received feedback from community members who have individuals that turn to them in a time of crisis, and that process of getting assistance or getting the call back at such a critical time is not where it really needs to be. So I think one of the things that I want to pose here is how we can kind of make that partnership better to make sure that we're not making rounds of phone calls to make sure that the person that's reaching out to us in that time gets the assistance that they need.
My recommendation is to always refer to the hotline first, because navigating through our extension list is a little difficult. The hotline is the best resource, and we are a walk-in center, so they can walk in at any time between 8 and 5 p.m., and one of us will be there to assist. We do see walk-ins on a daily basis.
How does your crisis hotline work? Can you walk us through the process?
So we have shelter staff that man our hotline, and it's available 24 hours a day. They know exactly how to redirect those phone calls if somebody is seeking specifically just legal services, neighborhood legal, and so on. If they need emergency shelter and we do not have availability at the time, we do receive a shelter bed night list that indicates exactly which shelters are accepting, and we'll help them with that referral process and so on.
And the 3 languages that you mentioned, that language is always available, like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when
If
someone
necessary,
calls?
yes, because the language line is available 24 hours. It's a little difficult to do 3-way calling, but we are able to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a quick question. You mentioned that the walk-in service is available 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Is that 7 days or just Monday through Friday?
That's Monday through Friday.
Hello, my name is Magda Selon. I am the housing specialist with the Ywca. I just want to say thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak today. And just in regards of Commissioner Asatrian's question, I have a direct contact or the housing department from Glendale emails me directly sometimes if it's a particular case of how can we handle this situation. I communicate with Ywca, I communicate with Ida, so we have a really good communication set up. In case you guys receive a phone call of a particular client, don't know how to navigate the system, I've been able to work out with them all the clients that I receive information from. I will do a follow-up one-on-one with them, and if I'm not able to assist them at that moment, I give them resources and I communicate via email with them in particularly. And Commissioner Wolfson, we have a staff that sometimes stays a little bit late, working on the hours, like work hours, like 9 to 6, because sometimes we understand that some clients, won't have the possibility to come at, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, So if somebody is at the office, they will make sure that they will talk to that particular client, and then maybe provide some resources if no one is available. Okay.
Is the crisis hotline local, or is it it is local, so it's individuals that are within your office structure. Okay. Thank you so much again.
Any other questions?
Okay. Thanks.
I echo the sentiment of my fellow commissioners, and I thank you. I know that this is a very issue that doesn't get too much highlight. It's not something that we are openly engaged in talking about. So I thank you, and I think that it's great to have people that are so passionate about serving the underprivileged or like the people that go unnoticed. And I know that there's a lot of community members that do need services as such, but they don't know where to turn to, who to turn to, and it feels as something that they are very kind of reserved in bringing forth. So I thank you for your services, and I can't thank you enough from our commission and the people that I know that have personally used the services. So thank you once again.
Thank you. And I just want to add really quick, I know the stereotype of the statistics shows that it's only women and children. Now we're seeing the statistics growing up, having males also as victim survivors, and we also serve them. Okay, well, thank you. Have a
Allow
great
me
day.
to echo the appreciation of the commission, and I would ask that you give the hotline number and the address of the walk-in shelter to get that information out to, if you could repeat that for the audience today.
Sure. Our hotline number is 1-888-999-7511, and our walk-in location address is 735 East Lexington Drive, Glendale 91206. We do have a receptionist in our welcome center that will help them navigate and reach one of us when they arrive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have
Bye-bye.
a great day.
Next item.
Item 4, Commission Staff Comments. President Michaels, members of the Commission, if I may, I'd like to announce a series of events that are taking place between now and our next meeting. August 22nd and 29th, we'll be having the Teen Night Out at Maple Community Center between 4 and 6 p.m. Also, August 31st and September 14th, between 5:30 and 9 p.m. at the Pacific Community Center. Wilderness Work Day on August 25th, between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. at Duke-Majin Wilderness Park. ABC Campfire Program on September 1st, between 6:30 and 8:30 p.m. at Duke-Majin Wilderness Park. City holiday on Labor Day, which means the offices will be closed. City offices and community centers closed. No congregate meal program on September 3rd, 2018. Parents Night Out on September 7th between 6 p.m. to 12 a.m. at the Pacific Community Center. Riverwalk Work Day on September 8, 2018 between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. at Glendale Narrows Riverwalk. Street Food Cinema, Nick and Noah's Infinite Playlist at Central Park on September 8. Doors open at 5:30, live music at 6:30, and movie will begin at 8:30. CDBG Open House on September 13 at 3 p.m. at Pacific Community Center. Teen Workshop Leadership Development on September 14th at 6 p.m. at Pacific Community Center. Medicinal Plants of the West Hike with Discussions on September 15th between 9 and 12 p.m. at Duke-Majin Wilderness Park. Street Food Cinema Ferris Buller's Day Off on September 15th at Brand Park. Doors open at 5:30, live music at 6:30, and the movie will begin at 8:30 p.m. Omniseke Tea Ceremony September 16, 2018 between 11 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. at Brand Tea House. Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission regular meeting will be back here on September 17 at 2:30 in the afternoon at the City Council Chambers at City Hall. For more information, residents are welcome to call 818-548-2000 or visit our website at glendaleca.gov/residents/calendar.
Thank you. I have no cards for oral comments. Next item, please.
Item 5 would be oral communications, but we don't have any cards. Item 6, consent items. At A, approval of the minutes of the Commission regular meeting held on June 18, 2018.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
Commissioner Satrian,
Yes.
Kalfayan absent, Wolfson,
Yes.
Wu,
Yes.
President Michaels.
Yes.
Item 7A, reports information only at A Verdugo Park tree assessment.
Good afternoon, President Michaels, member of the commission. Last time we met in June, we mentioned that we were doing an assessment at Verdugo Park of our trees, having lost 4 trees at that time in a very short period of time. The assessment concluded at the end of June, early July, and we received a report from our arborist. And the arborist reports identified some trees that required some pruning. We began those immediately. There were some dead wood. That's basically branches that are dead, still hanging on the tree, those to be removed. We addressed those. And it also identified 14 trees for removal. Of those trees, 10 were redwood trees. One was a pine tree that's on the slopes. One was an ash tree that basically was a volunteer. Somehow we began, as a lot of trees do, grew in an area it's not supposed to, and it's not in very good condition. And there are 2 sycamore trees that are recommended for removal. These trees are severe in their condition, and they are at higher risk. That means that if they do tend to fall, it could, injure individuals and/or properties. Hence, we're at this point, we're analyzing those recommendations to move forward to the next step of the removals. At the same time, the consultant identified 15 trees that they're requiring a level 3 assessment. What this means is that the tree showed some risks, yet we're not sure what level the decay may be inside the tree. So we are currently working on a professional service agreement with a technician who will come in and do basically a sonic tomograph of the tree. It's like a tree ultrasound. And it literally does what it says. It actually sends waves through the tree and takes pictures of inside of the tree. And then the experts will look at it and determine how far it's decayed, and then be able to make some recommendations. Some of these trees are very, very large trees, so just listening to the sound as they would do in level 2 assessment is not going to allow us to make a full determination. The last item that we're working on at Verdugo Park is radial trenching. We're going to identify 10 trees with a consultant and then do radial trenching, which literally takes out a lot of the soil within the perimeter of the tree's drip zone, and then applies mulch and loosens the soil up. We're going to do some testing to see how that helps the health of the tree. And if that becomes more successful, we're going to begin using that as an alternate way of addressing our tree health issues within the park, and ultimately look at using that system at other trees that we really want to preserve. That's all we have at this time. Once we make those determinations and then run the tests, the assessments, level 3 assessments, we'll come back to you with a bit more details later on in the year.
How many trees have currently been removed?
Within this year, we lost 4 trees at Verdugo Park, 4 sycamore trees we lost at Verdugo Park. And there were some stumps and dead trees in the slopes that had been waiting for removal. We just basically went stump grinded those and removed some of the dead trees that were in the slope. But within the park right now, we currently have 14 trees recommended for removal. And also for the record, we always replenish these trees. The arborist recommendation is try to identify different species of trees that could benefit the park. So we haven't made that determination as of yet. But every time we remove trees, we do plant 1 or 2 trees in its place to be able to supplement the ones removed.
So there were 4 that were removed, and there's an additional 14, or are the 4 part of that 14?
President Michaels, the 14 are in addition to the 4 that were removed. And most of these trees we have been keeping a close eye on. A lot of them were at moderate risk when they did the first initial inventory. We've been watching closely because if a tree is listed under moderate risk, we pay careful attention not to remove them just because they're listed at moderate risk. We pay close attention after we lost one, the large tree. We were forced to remove the other 2, as we explained in June, because we were afraid at this point those trees would also collapse. And safety is our number 1 priority, safety of the public, the kids playing in the park. Hence, we did not have many options but to remove those trees. So now we want to take a step further. Before we make a determination that those trees must be removed, we're going to do one additional level of level 3 assessment to make sure that those trees, whether they need to be removed or whether we could take other options to try and preserve them any longer.
And when do you expect that level 3 assessment to be complete?
We are currently finalizing the professional services agreement. It's a matter of getting that wrapped up. Once they do, I'm hoping within a month we'd have the consultant on site doing the assessment and providing reports, but we will keep you updated as to the progress on that.
Thank you.
I had a quick question. So the trees that are in distress or are declining, would there have been some way to avoid that from occurring if we'd addressed it earlier, or is that something that can be done?
President Michaels, Commissioner Wolfson, that's a good question. We don't quite have a full and solid answer on that one. Based on the practice we have in play, the consultant said that most of the trees are very healthy. Now, the drought did play a big role on it. There are a lot of compaction within the park because this park is heavily used. And where we notice a lot of the compaction over the picnic tables or what, those are the trees that are based on the foot traffic that you have around the trees. The compaction is really causing it. So now we're taking steps to make sure that we, for the future, do take further steps, and the radial trenching will be one option to consider. But again, each one of those steps comes with a cost attached to it, and about 400 trees within that park could be a significant cost. So we're looking at ways to make that very efficient approach for our staff to be able to utilize tools, techniques, but right now working with a consultant and their expertise to do the tests to make sure that it actually shows the progress, and for us to be able to implement that down the road.
Great, thank you.
I have a couple questions. So in addition to the trees at the Verdugo Park, are there any other parks that we are assessing for tree removal or due to decay or poor health? And I wanted to come back to the 14 trees at the Verdugo Park. If they are deemed to be in such poor health that need to be removed, would that be done before we are expecting an El Nino, I believe, this winter? So will that be done prior to that? So it will have an issue or potentially, or it's going to cause any damage to property or for our citizens?
Yes, President Michaels, Commissioner Wu, to answer the second question is those 14 trees, we'll make a determination fairly quickly. And before the fall season, the winter season starts, we would have the dead trees removed, obviously, for safety. As for the first part of the question, at this time, we have not expanded the level of assessment we're doing at Verdugo Park to other trees, to other facilities. And those we're relying on our staff resources to tell us when the tree is required or is showing poor health or is dead. And every time we have a consultant that goes out to a facility to do basic pruning or removal of trees, they themselves identify trees that need further assessment and or further attention. And we take those recommendations from our consultant and then apply the appropriate action per se for those facilities. But at this time, we focus at Verdugo Park only because of the 4 trees that were lost and because there were sycamore trees and their conditions seem to be in a dire need to be able to do further assessment.
Thank you.
Next item.
Item 7B, Integrated Pest Management Update.
That seems to be me again. Good afternoon, President Michaels, members of the Commission. Last year in March, this Commission adopted Integrated Pest Management Program. And since then, we have been practicing that in the field. And we wanted to come back to you with some updates. We've talked throughout the process as to some alternative options to be used in the field. We mentioned an experiment we're going to conduct in one of our facilities of a natural product. So I want to give you a very brief update on what's been done thus far and talk about the experiment. And if you would pay attention to the it does not seem to be working. Technical difficulties could be the mouse. Mouse might do the job. Okay, here we go. We got it functioning. So integrated pest management is commonly referred to as IPM, and it is a broad-based process treating and controlling insects, weeds, rodents, and other pests. What it does is anticipates and prevents the pest activity and tries to take control ahead of it becoming an infestation and applies economically and environmentally sustainable practices. Next. So, as we discussed last time, it combines several strategies for long-term solutions. We attempt to try the biological approach first, cultural, mechanical, physical, which is mostly like the labor-intensive tasks, and then, if necessary, chemical to address the problem. And it is based on need and effectiveness, and we don't have a must schedule that we want to follow. If it's necessary, we do the application. The goals, as we shared last time, is first and foremost to protect human and environmental health. We want to make sure that people coming to our park will not be exposed to any health or hazards due to pests and insects. We do monitoring of the pest populations and take action only when it's at a level of need. A lot of times we get the county help to tell us, for example, the ground squirrels at Montrose Park, and when the county health tells us that the infestation is at levels that we must address, we do apply the appropriate measures at that time. The idea here is to minimize the number and the quantity of the applications, as well as the toxicity of the applications. Keep things at a very healthy level. And then to minimize the impact to non-target animals. If you recall, several years back, there were products in the field that if applied, if a squirrel eats the product and an animal eats the dead squirrel, it actually is second generation anticoagulants. It has effects on additional non-target pests or animals. We stopped that practice about 4 or 5 years ago, and we have not applied any of those, and this will continue to be the case. We only want to target the target pest and avoid any secondary outcomes to any other animals. It again establishes the criteria for using the least toxic materials and only use the toxic materials if the public health and safety become an issue. Just like when it comes to ground squirrels, the chemicals used to address those are a bit more toxic, hence we hire contractors to address it. So comparison of applications in the past several years. In 2016, we had 386 applications. It equated to about 1,135 gallons, and the most common pesticides used at the time were Roundup and Speed Zone. We had others that we used, but these are the most common ones, and that equated to about 567 ounces of Roundup use. 2017, there was a slight decline to 113 applications altogether, of which utilized almost 1,400 gallons. Roundup and Speed Zone again, but Roundup dropped to 271 ounces. And thus far this year, we have 32 applications, 238 gallons, of which 232 ounces were Roundup. And we've started practicing using some Avenger. The reason for the decline is, well, twofold. One, we lost our hourly pesticide applicator. As we mentioned, we had challenges recruiting for that position. And because of that, we have not applied the levels of applications in the field, specifically the broadleaf control we do in our ball fields. Now we have a contractor that's assisting us with those applications. And then with the Roundup, as the controversy became to be more out and open, and we started questioning the application, we reduced the use of Roundup as well. And now we're practicing with other products. The recent developments, as we all know, use of Roundup has been very controversial for quite some time. But we're focusing on the most current court rulings, which identified glyphosate, which is the main ingredient in Roundup, is considered a carcinogen under Proposition 65. What this does, it essentially makes Roundup carry a label warning. And if you recall our IPM we adopted, we only use labels that are caution, which is the lowest toxicity. Well, this basically makes Roundup inapplicable under our IPM program. Hence, we stopped using Roundup in our facilities. And then, alternatively, we're starting to focus on manual labor and natural products, which is the Avenger. Now, let's talk about the experiment that we have. The experiment was held back in March through May. We identified a planter at the Casa Adobe de San Rafael. We split the planter into two squared areas, even 28 square feet each, and then applied Roundup to one and Avenger in the other. The applications that say 2 ounces and 32 ounces, there is a reason for that. For Roundup to be able to mix within a 1 gallon application, you use only 2 ounces of Roundup. But for Avenger, you must utilize anywhere from 16 ounces to 32 ounces of the chemical. And again, the variation between 16 and 32, some are hardier weeds. It's very difficult to kill. So you must use 32 ounces to be able to get some, achieve some success in being able to eradicate it. On March 9th, we began with identifying the two areas. It's hard to see, but if you can see from the gate right over here to the first flag, that is the one area. This area was sprayed by Avenger, and between this flag and the other blue flag, this area was sprayed with Roundup. This is very heavily, weeds are all over the place. You could barely see the ground in this case. So the application may have resulted in not every weed being able to be hit by the chemical. Why is that important? Because on March 12th, you could see the Avenger side immediately saw results. It started killing the weeds immediately. It is a very heavily concentrated citrus oil, so it had an impact right away. Whereas on the side of where the Roundup was sprayed, just 3 days later, there wasn't much of an action being seen, nothing visible. But come March 23rd, the area where Roundup was sprayed was completely dead. So staff came in, removed the entire everything, all the weeds, and come May 9th, the Avenger side sprouted back. It seems as though we hardly had sprayed it. And then this side where Roundup was sprayed, it is more significant removal. Part of the reason for both is there may be some of the plants that were not sprayed as we're spraying because it was so heavily, congested with weeds. Some plants may not have gotten the chemical itself, hence they survived. The main reason is when it comes to Roundup actually translocates the chemical to the roots, so it kills the weeds from the roots. And as in the case of the Avenger, it does not do that. It only kills the areas of the plant that it touches. So with Roundup, even 2/3 of the plant is sprayed, you're likely to see the death of the plant through the weeds, all the way to the roots. As far as the cost analysis goes, we talked about the Roundup being mixed in the solution of 1 gallon at 2-ounce rates, and they come in containers of 1.67 gallons, which is 213 ounces. Each one of those containers per gallon cost is about $90, and it represents a 42 cents per ounce cost, and at the mixed solution for 1 gallon, it's 84 cents. Now, we also have a large tank that we use to spray our weeds, a 120-gallon tank that is on top of a pesticide applicator truck. And if you did utilize that truck to be able to spray at 120 gallons, the cost would be $100 for Roundup. For Avenger, if you're using the 16-ounce rinse for the easier-to-kill weeds, they come in 2.5 gallons regardless, 320 ounces. The cost for that per gallon is $215. Translates to about 67 cents per ounce. But given the application rate of 16 ounces per gallon, you're looking at 1 gallon mixed solution is $10.72. The tank would be $1,286. And if you apply the 32-ounce rate for Avenger, the cost literally doubled to $2,500 for the 120-gallon tank. Now, our findings touched on this earlier, that the Roundup does kill the entire plant, including the roots. And again, just 2/3 of the plant being sprayed will kill the plant all the way to the roots. And the Avenger only kills the areas that it's applied, and highly likely additional applications as well as manual labor will be necessary to eradicate the area of weeds if we're using the Avenger. So we concluded that obviously the Avenger will cost more to use in the field, and then the need to reapply will make those costs a little higher. Staff will continue to use only pesticide using caution label, which means at this point in time, until the courts decide otherwise, we're excluding the use of Roundup. And then we will be applying Avenger when we can. Avenger is safer for the environment, but it is still high in citrus oil concentration, which means it's not safe for the people applying it. Hence, only licensed individuals and with the appropriate protective equipment will be able to apply it in the field. That is all we have at this time. If you have any questions, I will try to answer them. Just want to point that I have Dennis Gaudenti, our Parks Maintenance Supervisor, in here with us to answer some of the more technical questions. Dennis was instrumental in the original adoption of our IPM program, and he conducted the experiment, and he is the one I rely on now to address all of our pest problems within our parks and community centers. So if you have any technical questions, I'll call Dennis to address. If you have questions, I'll be able to answer. I'll be happy to do so.
Thank you. I have a couple of things. Sure. First of all, I want to thank you for being proactive and avoiding using suspected carcinogens in our city. When I was studying public health, I was aware that a lot of tests that are done only focus on one chemical, and in the real world there's a load of more than one chemical at a time, and so sometimes these results are kind of specious when they look at one chemical, not to mention the fact that these companies have a lot of skin in the game, and they want to see their product used, and it's just kind of a touchy situation, whereas IARC is a neutral body, and since the United States is heavily involved in the World Health Organization, it's kind of, I don't think it's completely fair to refer them as a foreign entity in the true sense of that term. My question is, in terms of the cost analysis, have we incorporated the fact that manual labor is being used more I mean, in the absence of a vendor, it would be all manual labor, wouldn't it? So that's got to be a mitigating factor in terms of the cost, isn't it?
Yes, President Michaels, Commissioner Wolfson, that is absolutely correct. To answer the first part of the statement, I should say, it's not just necessarily Roundup that we're not going to be using within our parks. Any chemical that uses glyphosate is not going to be applied because glyphosate is the chemical itself that is a carcinogen. There's also Ranger Pro and some other products out there that have glyphosate as their ingredient. So none of those products will be applying to. Rest assured that when we say we will not be using anything that's warning label, we only use Roundup because it's the most commonly known and that's what we use in the field. But anything that has glyphosate as part of its chemical ingredient, we will not be applying within our parks. The second part of your question is absolutely correct, is that Avenger will assist in some areas, and we're going to be testing more in the field. Early application of Avenger might actually assist in reducing the number of weeds. So some of the more easier to kill weeds, probably Avenger will do the job, especially if they're young and they haven't really sprouted to be fully grown to 6, 7, 8 inches high. We might be able to see some results there, but always have to be followed with some manual labor to be able to eradicate it, get to the roots, get rid of it. And then we're going to start practicing some pre-emergence to be able to apply and then mulch it afterwards. It's still in progress. It's an ongoing process, and we want to find the right means to be able to deliver that service.
Thank you.
Sure.
With the planter, you have the chemical applications that would remove the weeds. How are you looking to address planting and landscaping that planter in those areas to not just have it be dirt, but have it be attractive and put in landscaping?
President Michaels, a lot of times what we need to do is after we do a planting, put in a lot of mulch. Heavy layer of mulch actually minimizes the weeds. It will not eradicate them. Weeds will still grow, but it'll be limited in their numbers when they sprout back up. A lot of times they do deteriorate because it is mulch. We just have to have a better practice of reapplying the mulch. And then they do get kicked around a lot, especially in areas where kids are walking around. They kick it all over the place. So it's going to be more of a hands-on practice of making sure we stay on top of those planters, making sure we address the weeds as they come up. And then once we finish the manual removal of those weeds, put in enough mulch to be able to have a thick layer and try and avoid more of them from coming up. So it's going to be more hands-on by our staff and keeping a closer eye on the planters that we have out there. The challenge is we have so many resources. A lot of our staff are maintaining 3 to 4 facilities. So currently with the summer, you will see a lot of weeds. We experience a real growth in our planters in a lot of our facilities of weeds. So we're looking at, again, addressing it by a few different applications, a few different means of the mechanical or the Avenger in both, or futuristic, putting the pre-emergent, putting in the mulch, keeping a close eye on it. One of the challenges is apparently I've found out that if you put pre-emergent, it must be sprayed in, as in the drip irrigation that we have does not really do any work on that. So we either have to do manual watering of it or be able to convert some of those areas back to pop-ups. So we're considering several options at our facilities to address that issue.
I'm pleased to see that you're looking at a more holistic approach, including maintaining the planters after you do all of the work to put it in, and keep the condition of the landscaping in good health.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments? Next item.
Item 7C, Citywide Sports Annual Report.
President Michaels, members of the commission, as part of your packet, you do have a report on the Citywide Sports Annual Program, but we do not have a PowerPoint prepared. We wanted to focus on the One Glendale program, which is the next report. If you have any questions, I do have Gabrielle Golio, the Senior Community Services Supervisor, here to answer any specific questions you have.
Are there any specific questions on this report? I think we're ready for the next report.
Item 7D, One Glendale Annual Report.
Good afternoon, President Michaels, Commissioners and Department staff. My name is Norma Maurer, Community Services Supervisor for the Youth and Family Services Section for the Community Services and Parks Department. I have the pleasure of presenting the One Glendale After School Youth Sports Program Annual Report. Scroll.
Down.
Oh, there we go. We just completed the third year of the program. We had the success of the first 2 years and the expansion from year 1 in 2015 from 4 schools to 8 schools in 2016 to 2017. And due to the success of that program, we were able to repeat that for the last year, which was our third year in operation. The program targets 4th and 5th graders in 8 elementary schools south of the 134 freeway. We give the kids the opportunity to have access to free recreation and after-school program. We use this as an opportunity to introduce kids to organized sports. For many of them, it's their first time picking up a soccer ball, volleyball, flag football, or a basketball. And it's also an opportunity to introduce healthy and nutritious eating and hydration education to the kids. And we also provide the means for kids to be physically active. In 2017, Community Services and Parks Department was presented the Henry Raining Outstanding Organization Award from the American Society for Public Administration for the One Glendale After School Youth Sports Program. It focused on the improvement of the quality of life for those in the Southern California area. A few of the benefits that continue to flourish every season is that we, first of all, focus on kids not being alone or unsupervised after school, and they have a place that is structured and safe for them to participate in sports and friendship with their students and their classmates at the school. The program promotes leadership skills, teamwork, builds confidence and coordination. It improves grades. It helps reduce juvenile crime by keeping the children engaged, promotes healthy lifestyles and reduces childhood obesity. And teachers, we also have the opportunity to teach the nature education and getting them outdoors through the Glendale Outdoors program. We're very fortunate to continue to work with a lot of our community partners. We work directly with the Glendale Unified School District. They provide the facilities at each of the elementary schools, as well as support with some staff training at the beginning of every school year. Next week, we will be providing a coaches training for all of our coaches for the upcoming school year. We rely heavily on Glendale Unified School District to be able to provide that appropriate training for the expectations that the district requires. We also work closely with Dignity Health, Glendale Memorial Hospital, Glendale Parks and Open Space Foundation, Adventist Health Glendale Foundation, also representing the Champions for Change, Kaiser Permanente, and soccer stores. The 8 schools that we have in the league are Cerritos, Columbus, Edison, Jefferson, Mann, Muir, Marshall, and Artie White. The sports that we cover, we start off with flag football, then we move to volleyball, then basketball, and ending with the really popular sport of soccer. We also have the opportunity to expose the kids to nature education and hiking and interpretive programming, typically out of Duke-Majan Parks, either the sports complex, and we added Brand Park this year to a location. Another really good feature that we are able to partner with is with Glendale Adventist Adventist Health Glendale Foundation. They provide the nutrition education, and they also provide the BMI pre and post season every quarter. They give us the statistics for each of the children on a quarterly basis to see if children have lost weight, have gotten leaner, and they provide the statistics for us every season. This year we were able to add the sports experiences, which was one excursion every quarter to take the kids to different either collegiate level or professional level sports games. The program takes place at Glendale Unified School District sites for practices. The program runs Monday through Thursday, typically from dismissal until about 5 or 5:15. The principals and the school staff, as well as the teachers, recruit the students at each of the schools. Triple ELP and the ACES program provide additional training for us. Glendale Unified Nutrition Services provides a nutritious snack every day, Monday through Thursday, throughout the entire year. And the program runs with 16 coaches, 2 at each site, serving up to 960 children. There are the 8 schools. For the flag football season, it is 1 school, 1 team per school representing. For the other seasons, for basketball, volleyball, and for soccer, 2 squads per school represent. So there's opportunity for kids to play because a squad of 30 is too big for the other sports. But with flag football, we can have 1 team. The Glendale Outdoors program is our GO program. It's an opportunity for the participants in the One Glendale After School Youth Sports program to participate in an outing where they get access to the great outdoors of Glendale. And this past year, we were able to take them to Duke-Majan Park twice, Brand Park, and to the Glendale Sports Complex. They get the opportunity to go outside of their normal neighborhood, their area where they typically play their games, and they get to go up to different parks. And for a lot of them, that might be their first opportunity to hike. Most of them didn't realize this was still Glendale. And they get to mix all the kids together, so it's no longer team-based or school representing. They are on teams with kids from Mirror Man. They mix up their teams. We try to encourage that sportsmanship and that teamwork across all of the schools, so that way they know they all represent One Glendale. So we work closely with Mark and Jeff and Devron, and they provide a very enriching program with usually a small hike, lots of games, a craft, and a typical education component that is sometimes talking about the local environment, the geology, the animals, and it hopefully sparks some interest in the kids to come back with their families to visit the parks. More information about the program. We always like to see familiar faces, so we'd like to invite you to join us on game days. Games take place typically at Pacific Community Center for most of the sports. Volleyball, we do extend our games to Maple Park, so we run games at Maple and Pacific during the week. Games typically run on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We provide the transportation to and from their school and to the game site. All games typically start no later than 3:30. We provide each team the opportunity to play once a week. All players are eligible for game time. The only time that they may have a reduction in game time is typically if a teacher or parent or principal, due to behavior or academics, will request for us to make an adjustment to their playing time. Parents pick up the children from the school sites, and each season concludes with a championship game. Every season, we measure our outcomes by looking at our agility tests. The kids are all participate at the beginning of the season, each season with 3 agility tests. And then at the end of the season, we test them again to see if there has been a change in their scores. Typically, to this point, all of the students have shown improvement. They've either gotten faster, more coordinated, or better able to manipulate or maneuver around the cones. So you can see that from week 1 to week 8. Adventist Health Glendale Foundation staff collects the weight and height data to calculate the individual BMI, and that remains confidential within the program, but we're able to look at it for statistical purposes to see if there's change. We don't see it a lot in volleyball because there isn't a lot of cardio in that program, but we do see it a lot in soccer and basketball. Adventist Health Glendale Foundation provides also a nutrition class. We do provide the opportunity for the kids to be tested at the beginning of the season with some basic, get a baseline to determine what they already know, and then at the end of the season, the coaches touch on some nutrition facts and information, so at the end they are able to see if they've learned any more throughout that 8-week period. We also conduct a parent survey at the end of each season, as well as a student survey. And at the end of each year, we wrap up with a principals meeting, and we touch base with our partners to find out what worked well and what we would like to repeat, as well as what we would like to improve. Here are the performance measures. 91% of the participants chose to drink water instead of soda or juice. 86 of the participants lost weight. 90% of the participants improved their grades. 87% of the participants improved their focus and attentiveness in the classroom. 92% of the participants improved their listening and behavior both at home and at school. Here are a few photos from our sports experiences. We were able to add that as a new feature this year. For the UCLA game, we were able to take 180 family members and students. That was a big task to take them. So for the following activities, we decided to make it a little bit smaller and more selective on who we were able to take with us. And the kids were excited to be able to go to CSUN to check out the men's volleyball. Also, there's a myth in the kids' mind that volleyball is a girls' sport. So trying to recruit boys sometimes was a little bit of a challenge, but they got to see it live, and we're very happy to see it live, as well as the UCLA game. Most of them had never been to the Rose Bowl. And then the Lakers Foundation also donated tickets, so we were able to take coaches and kids to the Lakers game. And for many, including some of my coaches, it was their first time watching the Lakers professional game. And then the last one was our LA Galaxy, because soccer is our biggest and most popular sport. We used that as the last season to kind of promote the kids throughout each season, to be able to get them excited about getting, showing up to practice, being a good team member, showing leadership, and that's what we use to select the kids that get to go on these outings. And the main reason why we'd like to expose the kids to this is just to give them the opportunity to see that they can, the fundamentals they're learning now, they can push on to to middle school, and then build on that to be able to go to high school and possibly onto college level play. We're also very fortunate to be able to work with the Crescenta Valley High School Falcons Choir. They provide our national anthem every quarter, as well as the Glendale Police Explorers Honor Guard. They present colors at each of our championship games, so it adds a much more honorable ceremonial feel to the event. Our program budget, our fiscal year for 2017-18, is $319,359 for 4 8-week sessions at 8 schools. Dignity Health Glendale Memorial Hospital grant funded $29,000. The Kaiser Permanente Foundation grant funded $10,000, and the City of Glendale General Fund funded the rest. And at this time, if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Are there any questions?
I just wanted to say thank you. You guys did an amazing job, and I'm very impressed with the positive results. Those are really high up there with the percentages of kids that actually do well and lose weight and all that good stuff. So thank you so much. This is very inspiring.
I also want to say thank you. And also, how can we find out when the games are being held? It's a little vague in the information.
Commissioner Wolfson, I would be happy to send the dates. We already have everything scheduled for the upcoming year. So all 4 dates are scheduled, and we have the times available. Our next date is on October 27th. That's our flag football championship game. It'll take place at 10:30 at Pacific Community Center.
Okay, I'll look forward to receiving that. Thank you.
I too want to just say thank you, and I think those numbers are astounding. I think the positive impact that you are having on the youth at an early age, to be engaged at a school event and building that team chemistry, it's huge, and having them be able to be rewarded, like to be able to go to those events for the first time, to see, collegiate athletic programs and professional sporting events. I think that's huge, and you inspire them to be able to work hard and play hard. And I think that's great, and I think the numbers kind of speak for itself, and I think that we have to do everything we can to make sure that the program grows and is sustainable.
Thank you, Commissioner Wu.
Thank you.
I also would like to add my accolades. The effort to go ahead and collect the statistics and the results certainly is worth it, because it's very clear to see the benefits of this program with that information. Thank you.
Thank you, President. Grant Michaels. Quick follow-up. We are looking at, now that our program is going into the 4th year, we are going to be looking at some follow-up reporting with our first-year kids in order to see where they're at with their academics, follow up with some of the families that we may be able to still be in contact with that are now, if they were in 4th grade or 5th grade, they are now going into 8th or now into high school. So we'd like to see if there was any long-term impact, because we'd like to, it's very easy to run the program year after year, but sometimes it's a challenge to be able to get some of that follow-up to see if any of those kids, we hear it, we get some of the children that come back, maybe they go into 6th grade or 7th grade and they say, oh, I tried out for a sports league that they had never thought they could participate in, but because they got the fundamentals from their coaches for the game, they went in with more confidence. So we're really excited about the idea of just being able to move forward with continued outcomes, just as you stated.
I just want to kind of piggyback off your comment. Have we ever thought to create like a mentor program for the kids that did go through it? And like you just said, maybe as they get older and they enter high school, and then be able to come back and speak to the 4th and 5th graders that are looking into joining the One Glendale program, and to say, kind of mentor them through middle school and high school?
Commissioner Wu, we actually, that came up this season as a possible opportunity, but primarily with our 6th graders, because we had a lot of 6th grade parents that were asking for the 4 elementary schools that have 6th grade or 6th grades offered at their school. They asked, now what do I do? What does my 6th grader do? So they have requested the opportunity to potentially have their kids come back as helpers in the program to assist with, since most of those kids may have already gone through the program for 2 years, as an opportunity to explore. So it has come up, it came up towards the end of the school year, and we were looking at considering not only the 6th grade, but the potential for when they get older to come back. We do work with our teen volunteer program, and we do work with some of our high school athletes that if there isn't a conflict, we do bring them back, but they're not prior One Glendale participants at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
President Michaels, if we have a brief video as part of July's Parks Make Life Better Month, our GTV6 department helped us put together a video highlighting the One Glendale program, so we'd like to play it for you real quick.
Thank you. The next item, please.
Item 7E, Section Activity Reports at One Recreation and Community Services.
Good afternoon, President Michaels, members of the Commission, city staff. My name is Seva Garabidin, Senior Community Services Supervisor with the Community Services and Parks Department. So briefly, I wanted to go over our June, July, and part of August activities in the recreation section that we had these last couple of weeks since our last meeting. So June was not as busy a month as July, but clearly we had our summer season start up. So we started off on June 5th with our STAR graduation. And then from there, day camps began on June 11th. July 7th, we had a Trails and Open Space Program Experimental Forest Work Day. July 11th and 18th, summer concerts in the park. On July 19 and 20, our STAR program participants, our students, went to an overnight camp. For most, it was their first time away from home without the parents. On July 21st, we had our 25th annual Glendale Cruise Night, like we talked about earlier. July 25, summer concerts. July 26, our citywide day camps Let's Play Day at Pacific Community Center and Park. And then on August 7, National Night Out. So those were some of the major events our recreation staff was working with during these last couple of months. Summer concerts in the park series started on July 11th. They finished on August 15, if I'm not mistaken. During the concerts, we had a total of 6 concerts, 6 different brands, 6 different live performances, once a week each night at Verdugo Park on the north end. One of the concerts was sponsored by the LA County Supervisor for the 5th District, Catherine Barger's office, as well as the LA County Arts Commission. So they paid for the entertainment for that night. The participation was anywhere from 300 up to 500 people, depending on the performance. And we tried to keep a different genre each week. So we had Verdugo Swing Society, Orquesta Charangoa, the Hodads, which played 50s and 60s, the Breakfast Club, which was an 80s band, very popular evening. We had Bobby and the Gypsies, which was like a Gypsy King style Catalan rumba band. And we had JX3, which was a classic rock band. Like we talked about, 25th Annual Glendale Cruise Night that took place on July 21st. As Gabrielle discussed earlier, there was about 331 pre-1980 classic cars, live entertainment, Brian Byrne emceed the event. There was various community organizations and businesses that had a booth during the event. The department's Glendale Rocks climbing wall and our mobile recreation package was also at the event with some carnival games. Our Youth and Family Services section was out manning the marketing booth and promoting our recently established My Glendale Teens Instagram account and pushing our teen programming. On July 26th, we had Let's Play Day at Pacific Park and Community Center. This is something we started last year in recognition of July as Parks Make Life Better Month. So on this day, on July 26th, you could see one of our city staff sitting with us was the person in that dunk tank. So the kids had an opportunity to throw the ball, get that person in the tank. They had water balloon games, a tug of war via that pool. The loser would end up in that pool. We had a 63-foot inflatable obstacle course that was first time for our day camp participants. And the day was capped off with ice cream and refreshments. The kids had a blast. It was 2.5 hours of organized chaos out on the baseball field, but nonetheless, every kid was at home. I apologize to some parents because all I could hear is squish, squish, because they were drenched from head to toe and they were about to get into the car, but nonetheless, the kids had fun, so that's what it was all about. On August 7th, we had National Night Out. National Night Out is a community-based program that takes place on the first Tuesday night in August, and this is a nationwide program. Some of our parks, 3 specifically, Adams Square Park, Pacific Community Center, and Nibley Park, were hosted National Night Out events. These pictures are from the event at Pacific Community Center. At Pacific Community Center, the event also featured our Glendale Rocks climbing wall, as well as 23 nonprofit organizations that our Youth and Family Services section coordinate with throughout the year. So it was National Night Out / a resource fair that our Youth and Family Services section staff contributed to the event by helping them organize and add more resources to that event. There's fun. There's games at this event. There's music by way of a DJ. Community members donated up to 300 hot dogs, which lasted about an hour, and they were all disappeared within that hour. It's fun. The one at Nibley Park is a outdoor movie. Basically, it's a movie in the park held by the Rossmore Neighborhood Association, and the one at Adams Square Village is by that association in that area as well. And it's basically a community event, and the point is to come out and meet your local law enforcement staff and get to know your neighbors, law enforcement. Glendale Fire comes out as well, and it's basically a networking event for the community. During the last couple of months, Youth and Family Services section still had its Teen Night Out events. On July 17, I want to highlight the Kids Dental Clinic presented a clean and healthy teeth workshop. They talked about the importance of brushing your teeth, how smoking, vaping, eating junk food, and drinking high sugar drinks can damage your teeth. Guilty as charged. Teen volunteers led by Youth and Family Services section also assisted the department during various special events when it comes from summer of soccer to cruise night to all the activities that we had during the last couple of months. Our Youth and Family Services section staff will organize our team volunteers to come out and help staff in getting those events up and running. So you see some pictures from cruise night, whether it's the marketing booth or the Instagram. As I mentioned, STAR students on June 5th, 5 students from the STAR program graduated the program. They aged out, basically. Each of the graduates received a mayoral commendation that was presented to them during the city council meeting. And then on July 19 and 20, 16 STAR students, those who didn't graduate, basically, went to Camp Cedar Falls. It was an overnight camp. They went on a Thursday morning and then came back on a Friday night. And it was, for most, it was the first time away from home without their parents, so it was a fun activity. They did some archery, horseback riding, hiking. They went to the pool, and of course, while at camp, you do what we do at camp, and that's raid the opposing cabin. So they got to do some raiding as well in the middle of the night. Our Trails and Open Space program in July had 3 different work days: the Experimental Forest Work Day, the Riverwalk Work Day, and the Wilderness Work Day. And then they also had an urban hike on July 28th of South Glendale, visiting various South Glendale historic sites from the transportation center to that lovely home you see. And then, of course, on August 17, summer ended for most of us. So it was the end of our summer day camp program. Here you see pictures of our staff at our different camp locations, from Pacific to Maple to Spar to Verdugo and Griffith Manor. It's really a credit to our staff. You know, we need to constantly recruit good staff to be able to provide that summer camp level that parents expect of us. Here's some of our campers visiting the pool. No diving, that's why she's going feet first, following the rules. Here's a picture of some of our volunteers in the middle there, and then you can see some of them going on an excursion. Our mobile recreation staff, our climbing wall staff visited 2 of the parks, where there was Spar Heights and going to Montrose Park or visiting Maple Park. Some of the teens were able to go to an LA Sparks WNBA game at Staples Center. That was cool for them. We had our kids in red, those are the Spar Heights campers, and one time they went to Fire Station 29 up in Montrose, and Glendale Beeline came and visited them, giving them information about public transportation. And that pretty much concludes everything that we did for the last couple of months. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Are there any questions or comments? Thank you. I do know that I enjoyed the Concert in the Park series as well.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
next item.
Item 7E at 2, Park Services.
Good afternoon again, President Michaels, members of Commission. We are presenting 2 months of monthly activity reports. In June, groundskeepers completed 72 work orders, 2 pest applications, and then irrigation repair crew at 36 work orders, total of 110, for labor hours at 637. The July numbers are not accurate. We will resubmit that next month to you, because the labor hours, I recall, the last revision we made should be at 1,500 hours. Because in July, we began the end of June, early July, we began the retransformation of our field 2 at the sports complex, and we put a lot of man hours at that field. We'll be presenting that project as well as Childcare and Ball Field We're doing a complete redo of those two ball fields next month, as well as Riverwalk, which we're currently working on. But at the very bottom of the report we presented to you, as we went through our IPM update, we noticed some of the staff that had completed applications had only listed it in our required agricultural form by the county, so we can always submit as an annual report. Some of those were not translated into a work order. Hence, we updated the report. We want to make sure Commission has accurate numbers on the actual work orders completed for those months. And most of those changes are in the Pest application, as you would note. We put two columns that says the revised version and what the original version reported was. And that's the reason why we provided that, so you continue to report accurately on the work orders. And July will come back next month to show the accurate numbers for the labor hours. And as for a couple of the projects we'd like to highlight for this month, at Brand Park, we've been doing a lot of work. We reported on some of the work in the day camp area, but the latest project was the installation of the picnic tables, the concrete picnic tables. We did it to the entire park. We started with the concept of replacing, or placing, I should say, picnic tables at the new day camp, old day camp area, the new revitalized area, but we expanded that to the entire park. This is an area by the wading pool where we were going to place tables, yet needed to put in some, pour some concrete to be able to allow the kids from the pool to the concrete area so that they're not making a mess all over the place. And because they're going to be bare feet, more likely, we want it to be more safe. So we prepared a few different spots for the picnic tables to be laid. And then we had our colleagues in Public Works come in and do the pouring of the concrete. After they were finished, we had our staff deliver and move the tables. Most of these pictures are going to be of tables in different areas of the park. This is the area near the, again, wading pool. We had to put 3 tables here. And then adjacent to some spots, we added tables because it seems to be a busy area. It's got a lot of trees, a lot of shade. People love to picnic in this area. We added more tables accordingly. This is the exit off of Grandview. You'll notice we put some concrete tables in the area where we had the old aluminum. People were moving those aluminum tables all around. They will not be able to move, a couple of 1,000-pound weighted concrete tables. And we contemplated putting concrete in this location. But given the fact that we're too close to the oak trees and we really didn't want to impact any of the mature trees, we decided to put it right under the turf itself. The other option was to excavate and put in decomposed granite, which is still permeable. Yet we felt by exposing some of the finer roots in that area, because we have to, go down 3 to 4 inches, it still wasn't ideal for the trees. We went with this option. It's still the same weight that it would be on there, but it doesn't impact the roots. And then this area, we figured eventually the turf will die because of all the foot traffic, and it'll be just more of a natural setting. So it's still in works. We'll probably see the turf dying out in this area. It was intentional, but rather than us removing the trees, we let nature do the job, so we don't want to impact any of the roots. And here's, again, a grouping. We actually added more tables here, too, because this exit, if you go down every Saturday or every Sunday morning, they're heavily used, and they're always busy. And this is the old day camp area where we placed picnic tables, I believe 7 in this location. And this is open, the public is using it. We still have a little bit of work to do to finish up. These are the 2 benches at the very end of the hill over here. So whoever's not picnicking can sit there and relax. The work to be coming in this area is still the roadway. The paving needs to be redone. We're working with our colleagues in Public Works. They're developing the specs. We're going to bid that out so we can redo the entire asphalt in this area, tear it up, and then redo it so it's safer for people to walk and use. And then, as you see, we put concrete trash cans only in this area because they tend to be costly. I know we have a request to expand it to the rest of the park. We will be considering that as our budget becomes more available. But we place concrete trash cans strategically near the picnic areas in that same area, so that this area does get a lot of visits by our wild animals, and we don't want them to be knocking things over. So slowly but surely, we'll start expanding this program to other parts of this park, as well as requests for other parks to put concrete tables. Civic Auditorium underwent a landscape rehaul. We had planned this for some time, but waited for the actual construction of the Civic Auditorium, where they redid the entrance in the back area and all the painting. We waited for that project to conclude so we could come in and finish our job. We began by trimming the trees and removing the landscape in the north end and the east end of the facility. As you can see, they tend to grow very fast and does require annual trimming of some of the fronds, the pond fronds. This is right next to Verdugo Road. It was heavily wooded, and we began the removal of the entire ivy and then the planter bed right across. Once the removals were done, we had to come in and grind the soil, till it, so we have a better quality soil to be able to plant. Then began the irrigation work. As usual, we put in complete new irrigation in this area. The old irrigation, we used the existing lines, but created a new irrigation system to be able to get a better flow, better coverage of the entire area. The old pipes were corroded, so best to start off fresh and put in several valves. And once the guy's finished, do the testing of the spray, make sure we have a very good, accurate coverage, and then begin the planting in those areas. This is the hillside looking out towards the garage. What we decided to do is remove the turf from this area and add a very nice planting so that people who are having events want to take pictures, there'll be a nice color on that hillside embankment. Also, it reduces on the turf that we have in the facility. So after the removal, we, in that area and also by the parking lot, removed all the turf, began the planting project on both ends. And once planted again, we mulch, and the completed job with the mulch. This is the entrance to the offices. And the planters as well, we actually pooled water. These are being watered by themselves now. You will see it if you come close to them. You'll see like piping going into it, so they're watering themselves. We don't have to worry about staff having to water manually. And this is the embankment after it was done. And there's strategic selection of the plants so that it'll have different heights and different colors throughout different seasons. So I'm looking forward to spring to visit this site and see what the outcome will be. Now, we still haven't finished the southern part of the Civic Auditorium. We'll be re-landscaping there as well. If you notice, parking lot 31, there was a wall that came down. We're working with Public Works to have that wall rebuilt. And once that project is finished, we're going to go and re-landscape that area as well. We wanted to give Commission an idea of what our weekends look like. We do deal with a lot of trash, a lot of litter in our parks on the weekends. It is to the point where once our staff goes through it in the morning, by midday they would have to go through it again. And after our staff leaves before it's nighttime, come next morning, it seems as though we have not been there at all. Most people call and complain about the amount of litter. The reality is there's just very heavily used, and then we cannot keep up with the litter issue that we have unless we station an individual at one facility, deal with it on a constant basis. So this is a typical weekend for us. On a Saturday morning, staff will come in and find most of our trash cans full. On this site, you notice it had a lid. In most of the cases, when they have large items, they either just dump it on the side or remove the lid to put it in and don't put the lid back. So lids not always do the job for us as well. Big pizza boxes still stay on the outside, still has to pick it up. So in some cases, it prevents the animals from going in, but in most cases, people just dump the trash next to it because they don't want to mess with the lid, or they remove the lid and keep it open, so it defeats the purpose of having the lid. And then we have a number of our 3-4 yard bins at most of our facilities. By midday on Saturday, they are all filled to the max. And then we tend to have this. It could either be an animal or individuals. Yes, some kids do like to knock things over, and we have this practice at a lot of our parks. This is Brand Park, the same area we had the picnic tables installed. And this, I believe, is at Dunsmore. This is at Lower Shoal. Every single trash can is knocked over. And even though they're chained and they have lids, again, we have litter that is spread across. And our staff would have to address this before the picnic starts. So early morning, we shifted our weekend crews to a 6 a.m. start from 6:30 to be able to address some of these issues, as well as make sure they get to every park by 7 a.m. and have it opened. This is the job after they finish it, and I'm almost guarantee within several hours it would be a mess again. And then we instituted again a pressure washing program for most of our facilities, especially facilities that are reserved picnic tables. We are now on a better cycle of addressing the pressure washing. It could either be graffiti or just mess. Graffiti from trees are hard to remove, so we've started beginning to pressure washing to have them removed. And we do tend to have that at several of our facilities. This is outside of Maryland Mini Park. This is the inside. As people use it for picnicking, spilled juice, spilled food, they tend to stain. So we're going to continue addressing those. This looks like Pacific Park. again, after the job is completed. This is at Palmer Park, completed work. I cannot tell you where this park is at. They all look the same after a while. And this is Cerritos. Cerritos is very heavily used in the summer because of the water play feature. And it seems as though on a weekly basis we were addressing Cerritos. Our weekend crew, I bought them a small pressure washer that we keep at Cerritos Park. As needed, almost weekly, they have to hit this area because we want the people using our picnic tables to use it nice and clean and enjoy the use of the park. This is the chess park. Again, it is now under construction, half side of it because of the tavern being built. So we're, limited access to the chess park at this time. But every week, we have 1 or 2 facilities that get addressed for graffiti and or just a mess. This is Spar Heights. Yes, we also help our friends at Spar Heights. So that's all we have for right now. Again, next month we'll identify the 2 big projects, the ball field projects we're doing, as well as if you get calls, we are redoing the landscaping at Riverwalk. The midsection of Riverwalk, we had a lot of dead plants, and we decided to come in and overhaul the area. We're considering some drought-tolerant turf in some areas that originally had turf that died out, and we replaced into a landscape. The fact that we don't use any pesticides over at Riverwalk makes it very challenging. You'll notice on a monthly basis they'll have the Riverwalk cleanup days, but it seems as though they have not even made a dent. So the revised option is going to be some turf, which addresses with the weed issue that we have. We've already cleaned it all out. We're going to be planting some more trees. In the areas we're going to plant turf, we're going to put some more benches. And then the planters, we're going to reduce the size of the planters and then have, again, drought-tolerant plants that are ideal for being nearby the river, as well as make sure we have the cloths that we lay to prevent weeds from growing and then have it heavily mulched. So once we do the area over there, it should look a lot nicer. And then the job will be is to make sure we keep it up. That is all for the time being.
So this past weekend, I was actually in Colorado, did a hike up Boulder area, Flatirons, and the trash can issue you brought up, it's something that I noticed over there that I actually wanted to bring back here. They had these large trash cans that had a latch that you have to put your hand through it, that has a lid that doesn't come off. But they were like really sizable trash cans that obviously, they were made out of steel, that they don't tilt over, but they were big enough where, you could actually put a lot of stuff in it. It wasn't the much larger ones that we usually have for massive, but I took some pictures to show you guys and see if it's something that maybe we'd want to bring to Glendale, because again, that whole lid concept and just kept everything very clean, and it just really caught my attention. I had a couple of requests from Fremont Park I wanted to bring to your attention. One was if it's possible for us to put benches around the play area for parents, because they always kind of sit there on the curb to watch their children. Additional tables behind that in that open space, not where people usually play soccer and whatnot, but more to the left of the play area. And then we had a very sad and angry child that was upset about a slide that was closed off. Just wanted to check in on that because I promised I would.
So, President Michaels, Commissioner Sadrian, to address the first one, yes, we'd love to see what they're using over in Colorado. There are some products here that work. We've contemplated. There's one manufacturer that makes trash cans that literally go about 20 feet below the ground, and then would require actually some heavy equipment to come in and remove the trash bag. So I'm still not sold on that concept yet, but apparently they're practicing in a lot of facilities. It would literally require a hitch to be able to lift the trash bag. It'll be so heavy after a while, but I'd be happy to see what they do in Colorado. As it relates to Fremont Park, yes, that large slide has broken several times. Given its size and the types of activities that should not happen do occur in that slide, we have worked with our public works crews and have made patches and repairs several times. But given the fact that we have complete renovation of Fremont Park right now, we are focusing on maintaining everything at current levels. We are close to going out to bid. It's in permit phase. We're about 99% ready to go out to bid on that project. Hence, any new amenity that we have that you, as a matter of fact, identified, the playground, seating areas, the new design will incorporate the playground towards more center of the park. It'll have more seating along the area. We are increasing the number of picnic tables. We're doing group picnic areas in the turf areas that you mentioned where they don't play soccer. So it will increase our picnic tables. It will address the bench issues around the playground. It will reshuffle how it's designed to keep things more inner in the park where the children are going to be. And given the fact that we're very close to doing that project, we'll consider, but I would rather focus the resources to other facilities that are not going to get the same construction as Fremont Park at this time. But very well noted the points, and I almost guarantee all the stuff you identified will be in the mix in Fremont Park.
Very much appreciated. Thanks.
Just a couple of things. First of all, I want to thank you for all the hard work, and I really appreciate how beautiful most of the parks look and hearing about all the effort that staff puts into it. A few months ago, I was up at Mayor's Bicentennial Park, and I noticed that some of the bridges over, I know they're kind of like little footbridges and various other things, looked a little worn out and like they needed a coat of paint. It was just looking a little sad, so I wanted to bring that up. I haven't seen it addressed in your monthly report, I don't think, but I'm hoping maybe you guys can do a little sprucing up out there.
President Michaels, Commissioner Wolfson, we will definitely put that in the list of projects in the upcoming months. We'll take a look at it, see if it's something we can handle in-house, or if we have to include our friends at Public Works, we'll put in the appropriate work orders and have those addressed.
Thank you.
Well, if there are no other comments, I will share my thanks for the report and note that your photography skills of the staff is getting much better. The presentations are really showing the extent of the work and the results. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next item.
Item 8, adjournment.
We stand adjourned.